Hi guys, Ricardo here from Real Estate Mastery with Rick again. I'm really excited about basically speaking about today's topic. And today's topic is basically about that first meeting, that initial meeting that you have with a client. I'm gonna touch on the pre-meeting contact, and then I'm gonna speak a lot about that initial meeting and the assumptions. Yes, the assumptions that you need to walk into that meeting with. This is very, very important because this will set the tone for what you for what is going to happen further on. Now, the first thing that we'd like to start with is that that research has shown that it takes 7 seconds um, to make a good first impression. So if you don't make a good first impression in the first 7 seconds, then that would obviously be some things I've touched on, such as your dress code, such as your mannerisms, the way you talk, your car when they see you, and so forth. That first 7 seconds is so important. Okay, but now before we even get to that, okay, we're gonna get to when your client um, inquires on a property. Now, unless I'm on appointment, I have a basic rule that it takes 20 seconds for you to respond to an inquiry. So what that means is that as soon as you see, or like I see, an inquiry has come up on my phone from one of the portals that someone has inquired, whether it's an SMS or an email or whatever, I'm gonna call immediately. However, sometimes I'm on appointment and I can't do that. Okay, but if I'm not on appointment, if I'm driving my car or something like that, as soon as that query comes through, I'm gonna basically press the dial button, and I'm going to be speaking to that person. Even if it's only that I've made contact with that person and I'm asking that person, please send me a WhatsApp or like an SMS text or something, so that they can, so that I can actually know exactly how to deal with them. Now, obviously, many times I'll get a client basically telling me, "Wow, I've just sent this this query. I'm not even off the page, and you're already calling me." Okay, but that's good, because why? Okay, it's because the first thing that is going to happen is that your client is not only looking at your property. For instance, let's just give an example. In Pofadder, let's say in Pofadder, your client is looking for a rental. Okay, now your client is looking for a rental between this price and that price. So many rooms, pet friendly, not pet friendly, whatever his requirements are. Chances are that if he went onto the popular uh, property portals, he came up with maybe 20 different listings that might suit his needs. And these listings are basically listed by various agents. So what would happen is your client would basically type in, you know what, great, I'm interested in this property, please contact me, press send. Look at the next property, read through that property, basically again, that's it. Okay, and therefore 4, 5, 6 agents might get queries from the same client. So what would happen is, what I find is that the first agent to contact that client is most likely the first agent to basically have the opportunity to show him the property, and therefore is the first agent that has the opportunity to make money out of it. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I basically have 20 seconds, and that's it. You know what I mean? Obviously, as I said, sometimes I'm on appointment, sometimes I'm just busy doing something, and so forth. Now, what do you do with uh, queries that come through in that case, queries that come through at 11 at night? Look, if I'm awake at 11 at night and that client is awake enough to basically send me a message, I'm going to call him immediately. Now, many times when I do that, the client will say, can you call me tomorrow, or that, or something like that, and I'll say sure, no problem, and whatever. But the key is that I've made initial contact immediately. You know, the client might have not been expecting, might have expected me to be sleeping or so forth. But look, if he's awake enough to send me a message, I'm awake enough um, to respond. Also on that as well, I know that most agents don't work this ways, but I don't do appointments before 11 in the morning. So, and I don't go sleep before 2 of the morning in the morning as well. So, which means most times that people are getting hold of me, I'm awake and I'm ready to go. Okay, great. So now, let's say for instance, I've contacted this I've contacted this client. So what do I do now? What I do is I basically start vetting the client. This does not mean that I'm going to go through a full pre-qualification, even though I'm going to get to that now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out. Okay, so you want to move into this area. Okay, why do you want to move into this area? Is it closer to work? Is it closer to your kids' schools? Closer to your parents, or whatever the issue is? Why do you want to move into that area? Why do you want to leave the area that you are in? I might even ask that question as well. So I'm going to try to find out, like, you know what I mean? Does this property really work for this client, and why does it work for this client? Now, there's basically two reasons why I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, number one, is so that I get the information. But number two, yeah, and more importantly, I'm going to do that so I can solidify in that client's mind the reason why he wants to move to wherever my property is. You understand what I'm saying? Such as, now, you know what, it's closer to my kid's school. I'm going to make a note of that, and I'm going to bring that up again, and I'm going to bring that up again after I find out which school it is, and that type of thing. And therefore, I'm going to basically put that in the front of the client's mind. And the same thing goes for closer to my grandparents, closer to my work, or like anything like that. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And now the next thing is that if it's a sale, for instance, I'm going to ask the client if he's pre-qualified or if he's paying cash. If the client is pre-qualified, I'm going to ask him to send me the pre-qualification certificate. If he's not pre-qualified, I'm going to offer to get him pre-qualified. If he's a cash buyer, I'm going to ask for some form of proof of funds, whether it's a bank guarantee or like anything like that. And I'm going to give the reason of, like, you know what I mean, that our sellers, sorry, are basically are more inclined to arrange a viewing, to be excited to basically show the house to someone that basically has been proven as a bona fide buyer. Obviously, as we all know, we're going to get some resistance at this point, but look, that's what we do. Okay, now I've gone through these things before. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an appointment, and let's say I'm setting up an appointment for the next day for the client to basically look at the property. I'm going to set up the appointment, and I'm going to go in there, and this is very important. I'm going to go in there with the assumption that this particular client is taking this property. Now, why is that important? Because I have vetted that client. I've made sure it's enough bedrooms, it has a pool if they need one, or it has an entertainment area as close to the school or whatever the issue is, right? So I've already ticked off that this particular property works for this client. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do there's nothing wrong with me assuming that this property meets all that client's requirements. Now, obviously, when they look at the client might bring up something that does not that the property maybe falls short of, or something like that, and that's okay. You know what I mean? As a sales professional, you have been trained to basically deal with situations where the client is where the property is not quite 100% of what the client needs. And I work also on this other assumption that if the property is about 80% of what the client needs, then what is going to happen is the client should basically put in an offer on that property if the property is for sale. Now, now let's just look at this again. I'm coming to that assumption that this client is going to take this property. Now, number one, if the client has read through your ad online or wherever it is that he saw it, your client has taken the time to basically contact you. You have taken the time to call him back. The client has spoken to you. The client has basically explained to you roughly what his requirements are and so forth. Now, it's your job to help your client to make the decision that he's already decided to make. Now, what am I talking about right now? Is that when your client basically comes through, even though the property is perfect for him, sometimes your client comes through and even his partner, um, they basically have made a, a pact of sorts, where they basically decided that they are not going to sign anything today, that they are just going to be looking and whatever. Translation, that they're just going to be wasting my time. You know what I mean? Okay. Now, I know that some people who basically say, no, they're not wasting your time. You're finding out what you're going to, what the client is looking for and what they need. And no, that client has basically made a pact that today you're not going to make any money out of them, and they're going to basically spend an hour with you or whatever, and basically waste your time. Okay, so now, because my belief is that this client, that the property has, but based on what the client has said, has basically met at least 80% of their needs, that the property works for their family situation and so forth. So what's going to happen is, it's my job to use every tool that I know, every sales technique that I know, in order to get them to put in an offer now, and to feel good about putting in an offer now. So I'm going to, whatever information I've picked up, such as now my child really finds a pool, I'm gonna tell the buyer, you know what I mean? This property has a very nice pool, you know what I mean, it's got whatever little slide into the pool or whatever, your kid is gonna enjoy himself in this property. Yeah, but you know what, it does not have place to park 7 cars. You know what I mean? Okay, listen, but it has place to park 4 cars, look, I'm sure you can make it work, if it's got 4 cars. Or no, the granny flat is not completed in the property or so forth. And I would use basically the different types of techniques and things to basically get um, that client to basically see the value in that property. At the same time is, your client will have about, I don't know, your client will have a couple of pre-prepared objections, such as I want to think it over. If you watch some of my other videos, you will see how I deal with that type of objection. Or the client will have, listen, I haven't had the property to look at, and on a different video we basically deal with that objection and that type of thing. So here is the thing, the average client that buys is going to give you 5 objections before he buys. So you better have 6 different ways to close that client. Because if you don't have 6 different ways to close this client, if your client has 3 objections, you have 1 or 2 ways to close him. Trust me, you're going to be walking away from 80-90% of your viewings without a sale. You know what I mean? It's your job to move your client emotionally into the sale. You understand what I'm saying? And you're going to use a lot of different emotions to do that. You know what I mean? For instance, one of my favorite things to use, because it's very, very simple, is to ask the client an involvement question. Now, for those of you that haven't watched any of my videos before, you may not yet understand what an involvement question is. An involvement question is basically a question that I'm going to ask this client, where this client is going to answer on something that he has to make a decision on after he has bought. Such as, the simplest question is, okay, so tell me, which bedroom do you think will be yours? Client look, the client, if he makes that decision, if he tells me no, it's going to be the first bedroom that he looked at, or it's going to be the second bedroom that he looked at, that's great. You know what I mean? Because as soon as he answers that, what happens is he is telling us that it's going ahead. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions that basically comes afterwards, like, such as, do you think you're gonna keep this room this way? Do you think you're going to renovate it a bit? Do you think you're gonna do this? Do you think? Because that's all gonna emotionally move this person into a situation where he's already bought the property. You understand what I'm saying? Like, um, you know. So guys, that is the key assumption. I think that a lot of agents, they go into the sales process, and as soon as a client, but basically, they go and they go take a and they go to a viewing, and as soon as the client makes a small sound, such as, you know what, I just want to think about this. I want to talk to my son. I want to talk to my to my husband. Okay, the husband should be there, but I want to talk to someone. I want to whatever. The agent doesn't know what to say. So what does the agent say? The agent doesn't want to sound pushy. The agent doesn't want to sound rude. So what does the agent do? Is the agent basically says, "Okay," and then the agent never hears from the client again. The agent tries to call the client that ghosts them. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that, and you never hear about the client again. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I must have sold, in my career, which is not that long. My career is about 6 years. I must have sold about 100 properties in that time. And what happened is that, I've only had one sale where a client has walked away and come back and bought the property. Now, most of the time, I would close the sale on the first viewing. You know, I actually get very irritated when because this is a very common question that I would ask almost to every inquiry, is that, are you the only person that needs to make the decision? The person would say, yes, I'm the only person that needs to make the decision. And then at the viewing, the person is like, you know what, I need to speak to my significant other, I need to speak to my parents, I need to speak to this and that. When I get quite irritated at that, because I've already prepared myself for the situation. But that doesn't change the fact that I still believe that that person should sign right there, right then. Okay, so I don't need to make sure. I need to make sure that the client is basically a bona fide client. I need to make sure that the client, can buy. The client, obviously, you know that the law of contract, that the client, has the capacity to take the property, that has the means to take the property, and that type of thing. I need to make sure that all of those elements exist, and then I can safely assume that this client's going to sign it, and I don't need to feel bad should I use any sales technique in order to get this client to buy. All right, guys, please leave some comments below. Let's talk about this. Like, you guys can mention your experiences and so forth, and we'll take it from there. All right.